I did something this week that was kind of fun. Somebody sent me, for a specific reason, a link to an article from Business Insurance in 2011. It might have been a tweet that I found it in, but it was a friend of mine who sent it. Good person, been on this show. And it was it was from 2011. It was a snarky piece making fun of 10 demands that were being made by Occupy Wall Street. Remember originally when Occupy Wall Street came out, and I'm going somewhere with all this, so hang with me. Okay, originally when Occupy Wall Street came out, I was living in California at the time, but I was flying back to Washington, D.C. for a political conference, progressive political conference, and it was fascinating to me because all of the political progressives in Washington, D.C. were kind of turning up their nose, not all of them, but the vast majority of them were turning up their nose at the whole idea. They were saying, well, they don't have an agenda. They don't have a platform. We now know, of course, what the Occupy Wall Street protesters understood so well back in 2011, which is the problem with Democrats is that they have an agenda and that it's 55 items long and every item has 12 sub-items, and none of them really speak to, first of all, to people's hearts, and secondly, to what they need and want in their personal lives. Now that's changing with the new wave of Democrats coming along, and I'm happy about that, but there was a reason why we needed Occupy Wall Street. They were particularly upset because initially Occupy Wall Street said it had one big demand, and they were asking members of the movement, what's your one big demand? So, you know, it was an interesting culture clash, put it that way, because I was definitely with Occupy Wall Street from the very beginning. And then people started articulating their various demands. A writer put them together, and Business Insider, which, to be fair, does some very, very good reporting, decided it was going to mock these 10 demands. And so since somebody wound up indirectly linking to this entire list of 12 demands, I thought it might be fun to go back through them and see how they sound, not then, but now, to the people, especially in context of the way they were so mocked at the time. And I remember going on Fox News to defend Occupy Wall Street, which was a lot of fun, actually. In fact, I was sitting in the green room, and all these conservatives were sitting there, and I was dressed very conservatively in a suit and tie, and Greta Van Susteren was there, and Michelle Bachmann was there. Those were the celebrity people. And I remember Greta Van Susteren, who was very nice, by the way, said, what are you here to talk about? And I said, Occupy Wall Street. And everybody looked up, and I said, I like them. And then everybody really looked up, and she, unfazed, she said, you know what I like? I like freedom of speech. And so, okay, we had a good moment there because they're exercising it. But really, there was a lot of, it was almost a precursor of the reaction to the Bernie Sanders movement and some other things. There was a lot of liberal sneering at Occupy Wall Street, but they came around. To their credit, they came around. So that gets me back to this article, Alex Howe, September 28th, 2011, Business Insider, plagued by media coverage alleging a lack of focus or agenda. And by the way, they didn't have an agenda to begin with because, one, it was an assertion of moral values and moral principles, which is morality, ethics. Morality is not an agenda. Morality is a state of being. So people didn't understand that. Morality is not an agenda. Okay, I think I just said that. Okay, the ongoing Wall Street protests have now produced at least one provisional list of demands because the other principle of Wall Street, Occupy Wall Street, was self-governance. Okay, the grievances range from the vague and impossible to the specific and pragmatic. The people behind the list do not claim to be representative of the protesters as a whole, but it's a start. Okay, then what are the smash the Wall Street Bull? Well, I've already talked about the Wall Street Bull on this program. I'm not a fan. Now, I think as a practical matter, since it's made of metal, it might be difficult to smash, but there are many fine forges left over from the glory days of the United States manufacturing that could in fact melt this bull down and perhaps recast it into objects of greater value to living and breathing and working human beings. So I say melt the bull, number one. So I think if you were to go around now and ask people, should we melt or in some other fashion destroy the Wall Street bull, I think you get enormous consensus of support. Repeal Citizens United, all those crazy kids wanting to get moneyed corruption out of politics. I think you'd find strong majorities for that too. What they call widespread debt forgiveness, which means cancellation of student loan debt. New surveys show that this is extremely popular with Democrats and is gaining support among other people as a whole, and that in fact people would be more likely to vote in general and more likely to vote for a candidate if they supported it. So the writer says, not gonna happen. Well, you might be surprised, my friend. Pay-as-you-go military intervention. In other words, why does the Pentagon get a blank check to ruin our lives? I bet people would sign on to that. A financial transaction tax, universal care centers, reinstate Glass-Steagall, paid sick leave, political transparency, guaranteed income for all. These are all ideas that are not only gaining support, they're gaining enormous amounts of support, and they're not only gaining enormous amounts of support, they're actually helping candidates win primaries, unseat establishment politicians in the Democratic Party, and then go on and win seats, take them away in some cases from establishment Republicans. So what they made fun of in 2011 is actually turning out to be the agenda for the future, and it better be the agenda for the future, because if we don't get money out of politics, if we don't have a people's government, we're all going to go down with climate change. So I say it's about time.